belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people.
I'm the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, and this Permanent Secretary will assist us through the year 2019 for the Ministry of Business. And may I invite the Permanent Secretary to introduce our team to the Public Accounts Committee. PS.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, members. With me today, I have the PSF, or Head of Finance. I have Ms. Raj, who was a former PS in this period, 2019. I have Mr. Edgel, who is the Head of Business and Entrepreneurship. I have the projects, the IDB projects for the electronic single window and the national quality infrastructure. The heads are here with us. And I have a representative from the Small Business Bureau, Mr. Pollard, who's the deputy CEO, the acting head, Mr. Fraser from GNBS, Kamil Bash, the director of GTA, and the head of admin, or PSG, Ms. Simon, and industrial head, Ms. Alexander.
Thank you, PS. These persons who are with you as as persons who will assist you through this appearance, were all of them in the same positions back in 2019?
No.
Can you point out the changes?
The PSG was the chief accountant in 2019, so she was in the ministry. Ms. Raj's PS. The project team is the current team that's there. Ms. Simon she was 2019 the PASG. In terms of the Small Business Bureau, Mr. Pollard has been there in 2019. Mr. Fraser was there, but not in that specific position. But we have the head of the accounts for GNBS there. Mr. Bach was not the director in 2019, but was with GTA. And Ms. Alexander was the head of the industrial department.
Thank you very much, PS. This is not the first time you are appearing before this Public Accounts Committee. So you are aware that if there is need for you to get some more time to provide answers to the members, you will certainly be provided with the time. We expect you and your team to be honest to the Public Accounts Committee, and we don't expect you to operate on assumptions, and we will ensure that we provide clarity as much as possible in our questions as you will with your answers. Honorable members, we have 28 paragraphs, beginning from paragraphs 593 to 620. I would like to put before this committee paragraphs 593 to 610 for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
612, paragraph 593 to 612. Go right ahead, Honorable Member Edghill.
Mr. Chair, I would like to address matters at 599.
599.
The auditors indicated that.
Is there anybody who wishes to address any question from 593 to 598? If not, I will give way to Honorable Member Edghill for him to go to 599.
An examination of 28 contracts, which is a random selection, revealed the following unsatisfactory observations. 10 instances totaling 25 million, just over 25 million, where the date of the contract or extension agreement were after the commencement date of the works. Could the PS explain to us what happened here?
PS.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Member. If it is okay with the members, may I ask PS Raj, former PS, to respond directly to this matter?
Former PS.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. The instance that is referred to here is pertaining to the extension or contracts with regard to the security of Ministry of Business. And that is security contracts with the Ministry of Business. There were a number of instances, unforeseen circumstances that led to the contracts or a request for extension to the National Tender Board, for which we had late approval. If you permit me, Chair, I would like to go through some of the sequencing of the incidents that occurred.
And there's a plus button on the mic. If you can press that to ensure it's at maximum, that will be good. So can you start back the answer, please? Because I don't think the recorders got it accurately.
Chair, I was saying that the reference here to 10 instances are mostly related to the security contracts for the Ministry of Business at that time. There were some extensive delay due to a number of unforeseen circumstances that the ministry went through in terms of getting on board a contract for the security service. And that started in May 2018 when the tenders were open for the security contracts. There were 10 companies that bid for the contract. The evaluation of the process went through, and on the 3rd of October, the report was submitted, and NPTAB made references to the inconsistency in terms of the evaluation and the access to review. And while the process started in 2018, I would fast forward here up to February 19 in the following year, we had back and forth with the NPTAB because the evaluators in the first instance, while the first evaluation was done, when it was resent to us, we couldn't locate the evaluator because he was on vacation. So that extended the time a little further than we expect. We went to NPTAB and asked them to replace the evaluator. That took them a long while before they responded to us. And that was in February 2019. In March 2019, the ministry requested, because of the extensive delay, an extension of the contract for the security that was in place then, in order to ensure that the ministry is secured and the other agency as well.
Chair, if I could just ask the officer to pause. We're dealing here with 2019 accounts, but from the history that you're giving us, these contracts had their origin in 2018.
That's true, yeah.
While we didn't have a contract in place, and you got the extension way sometime in 2019, was the contractor being paid in 2018?
Up to December 31, that was when his contract was valid.
Oh, it's valuable. Contract was valid.
So
you were securing ahead of the expiry.
Right.
Okay, got you.
So we had a lot of talk with NPTAB. So in March, on March 26th, that's where we requested an extension of the service of the security firm at that time, because the evaluation process wasn't complete.
Just to be sure, the contractor who was in place, his services was extended, waiting the outcome of the procurement process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we still didn't get it clear. We had requested in April, May, and July for a second, third, four extensions.
These are letters you wrote?
Yes, requesting extensions.
Mm-hmm.
In August 2019, NPTAB indicated us when we submitted the evaluation that they were not in agreement with the recommendation, and indicated to us that one company should have met all the criteria, and that they're not in support of the recommendation we made, and they asked us to relook again at the evaluation. In September 2019, we wrote asking them to annul the process, and we did not receive a response until December 2019, giving approval for the annulment. So hence the reason why we were having this to and fro, and given the indication that yes, they would agree with the or make an award, but that didn't happen. So that led us until the end of December with no award, and at that time then they gave the approval for extension.
So all 10 instances were security at paragraph A?
Yes.
So 2 attempts at evaluation did not find the approval of the NPTAB or the cabinet?
NPTAB.
Of the NPTAB. The contractor that was in place remained in place.
That's right.
So it was his contract that was extended.
That's right.
As of December 31st, and when he was paid?
I think the payments are normally made at 3-month interval.
But you couldn't pay without a contract, or you were paid without
We had
contract?
the extension up to December 3rd.
If the extension came at December 31st, When did you get the extension? Sorry.
The last extension we got was for in August, and it's for the period October to December.
Okay. Well, let's go to paragraph B. 39 instances where dates were not affixed to indicate when the authorizing officer certified that the works were satisfactorily done.
To respond to that is the instances referred to is the date that is on the schedule. And it's the same date that we used when we had to.
If I may, the schedule of works that was being used, the format, had several necessary signatories, but it had one slot for dates. So if one person signed, you're not sure when the order of the signing happened because there was one date. I think that is the query when I looked at the format that may have raised this question. And since then, what we've done is redone a reschedule that has for every person that has to sign certified correct signature contractor, work satisfactorily completed, and a date. So every person you can track that. But I think that is what the query was on. How you have three and just one date at the end of it.
Here, would the former PS be kind enough to explain to PSC the process that would have led to the signing off for payment? Somebody had to inspect, somebody had to convince you that the contract was adequately executed, and then you authorize payments. The Auditor General, based upon what I'm reading here, somebody authorized saying that the works were satisfactorily done, but they did not say what date they inspected and verified that work and signed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, for the works that were affected or referred to here is the works on the industrial estate. We had a consultant that is overseeing the work. They would make their submission and based on their verification, recommend that the works be authored, that payments be processed for the works.
The consultant would prepare the interim payment certificates.
Yes.
And those interim payment certificates will be time specific.
Time specific, yeah.
Because they would say, for this period,
For
this
this
was done
period,
and so on.
So
But
when
the
that,
Auditor General said he didn't find that. But the Auditor General was here.
Audit Officer, Auditor General.
Chair, there is a place for the work satisfaction, which they would have sent to for the date.
All right, one, we did not hear you clearly.
Okay.
And two, I will ask that you identify yourself for the records,
Okay.
please.
BP Bacchus, Audit Manager Acting. In respect to those contracts, as we have here, works was satisfactorily done and which was signed, but the date were not affixed to by the office.
That's exactly the query. Excuse me for eating and talking.
Once you don't choke, comrade.
The Auditor General is saying that he saw contracts where the dates were not affixed, so the work was satisfactorily done, which means a man could be paid several times for work, and you sign off, but you never said this is the work done between January and this measured works, that blah, blah, blah. There's no evidence to support that these certificates were signed off at intervals and they all didn't sign at one day. That's the query here. And is it unusual that they would send in things without signature? May I ask who was the consultant? Did they name the consultant firm?
The name of the consultant was SRKN.
SRK, and it's quite a big firm.
Chair, the process is that when the request has been submitted, not request, when the payment request is being submitted by the consultant, that process, that document, once received, it passes through the director of the department who check in terms of the works that were done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think in all instances, or most of the times, the team from the ministry would normally go up to verify the works. And then it returns and we process the document. While I'm not sure if the query is saying on the schedule of works, but certainly on the document that we received, the date would have been on that document. And also, usually the practice is the director of the department would say that the work is done, and it's normally on the document stated from the consultant.
For
And
clarity, for the audit office, tell us exactly what was their query here. I might be misunderstanding it.
Through the chair, we are referring to the schedule of works.
Where the schedule of work, based on the format that we have been using, it has a signature of the contractor. The work satisfactorily done, and a date is stated on the form as well. And normally the director of the department would put her signature there as work satisfactorily done, and then it comes forward for the processing by PS.
And based upon the documents you have before you that you're referring to, they have the dates.
Yes.
They all have dates? For everybody. So the contractor, the consultant, the supervisor, the director, and the authorizing of everybody sign one day. Everything is fine. And everybody then put their own individual date when they inspected and so on. Is that the case?
No, it does not always be that case. That's the case. It sometimes takes a day or two before it gets from the director department to the PS. And in this one here, 25th of November.
Paragraph C. 3 instances totaling 9.263 million, where tender board approvals were after the contract extension agreement period. My first question, were these at the ministerial board or at the national board?
Chair, here again, the reference here refer to the security contracts.
So these three instances were caught up in the 10 that you spoke about earlier?
Yes. Vice Chair, D is the same reference to the security contracts.
Now, Mr. Chair, if you have a security contract for $250 million for the entire year, and that contract is expired, and you're continuing to pay that contractor to perform services while you're getting a new contractor engaged, what you're really doing is varying the first contract. The Auditor General is not indicating variations. He's talking about specific contracts. So I'm reading this as new contracts and not variations. So it's the same rate that you have to use of the contract that was in place. So you're varying it. And if you're not varying, you're going into a new contract.
Contract is expired. This contract, let's assume it lasts from
1 year.
1 year, and the 1 year has expired, and you still continue to engage the contractor to provide the service. It therefore means that that contract no longer exists unless you sign a new contract.
You extend the one.
So you could extend it.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Okay.
You have to, it's the same contract with the same rates to the same person for the same service, but you're extending it beyond the time, and you have to extend the contract sum to facilitate the payment. So what did we do here? I am trying to find out if we just went into, if you went into new contracts, then you sole source and you didn't follow a procurement process.
Sure, it was not new contract, it was extension.
But the sums were varied.
The same rates applied.
No, but the contract sum had to be varied.
To accommodate the additional time.
Payments.
Yes.
And if the contract sums were varied, that had to be dealt with at the National Tender Board.
Yes.
So that was not a matter that was being held at the Ministerial Board. That was a matter that was being held at the National Tender Board.
That's right.
The contract being extended and the sums varied.
Right, that's right.
So if the Auditor General is saying for 9.263 million where the tender board approvals were after the contract extension agreement period, we had something mixed up there. In terms of administratively, what happened?
Let's see you're talking about there.
Yes. Yeah.
PS.
Chair, there was no mix-up. That was exactly what we wrote for. The amounts vary. And the dates when we got the approval, maybe that's where the confusion lies here.
But Mr. Chair, to the Auditor General and his staff, did you see variations to these contracts allowing for the extension of time and extension of sum?
AG?
Through the chair, yes, these were extension agreements.
Good. Mr. Chair, I would like to indicate that if I was a contractor that bid at this ministry at this time, bids are open, they're evaluated and rejected, evaluated again and rejected. The conclusion can be for me as an aggrieved bidder that really, without following the procurement process, a contractor was kept engaged for an entire year. At my disadvantage, which is in total violation of the rules, because a bid security period is only for a particular time. So was the bid security extended?
Chair, in September of 2019, we wrote asking for the annulment of the process precisely because the bid validity period was up.
But I asked the question then, when we did eventually have an award, was it the same contractor who was kept in place won the award?
No, but while I was no longer at the ministry beginning of 2020, I understand the process went through and another contractor.
May I ask who was at the ministry when that happened? Is it Miss the current PS or somebody else?
Ms. Van Sypen Corbin was placed at that.
So that person acted as PS from, or was confirmed as PS from 2020, January?
She took office in 2020. I think, well, I don't know. I can't speak whether it was confirmed or not, but she was there as PS.
You handed over to her. At what date in January you handed over? February, when it was?
It's like mid-January I handed over.
Could we find out, Mr. Chair, because this is a matter that should be referred to the Procurement Commission. Could we find out who was the contractor that was in place while this towing and throwing with MPTAB was taking place?
Here they were MMC, Caliber, and Sentinel.
MMC,
Caliber and Sentinel.
3 services, and the evaluation process affected all 3.
Yes, because they were all tendered at the same.
They were all tendered at the same time. And could we be advised from the records which were the companies that took over when we did get an award?
I'm being advised that an award was given last year. And Bell's Global.
No. We talk here 2019, you got an extension up to December 31st, 2019. My understanding is that sometime in 2020, they did find an acceptable evaluation and award was made. Or this situation continued in 2020?
Honorable member, when I came in, took over office, those same 3 firms were in the ministry.
So they continue to get extensions?
Yes.
So
Well, at that point,
you find that in your 2020 findings? All right. I go to paragraph E. Two instances where the pertinent details, such as the contract sum, contract date, and the execution period of contracts were not stated on the document. If you have a document that don't have a date, the sum, and the time, it's not a contract. What we had. And this was also by the security firms.
No, these are general contracts. I not sure if I may be mistaken. I allow Ms. Raj to speak, but the instances where the some contract dating of the contracts are not stated in the document. I know on the cover page of the document just has general information, but it says that the contract, at least this format, it says that the contract have the same meanings as they do in the general conditions of contract, and that the contract shall be deemed the following documents will be deemed an integral part of the contract. So these are all parts of the contract, including the general conditions of contract, which outline. So I believe, I'm not sure if the query is to ask for this specific information on the cover page, but it sounds as I'm reading it that the contract document is comprised of a series of documents, including general conditions, and within that has these details. So some clarity on that is.
Auditor General, could you help us here? Because if you tell me a document exists without a date, a sum, an execution period, is not a contract.
Through the chair, referring to the contract document.
PS is saying, part of the contract document, there is several appendices, including general conditions of contract. Include these details. Did you examine that, or did you write only on the face of the contract?
It's just
special conditions. Special conditions and so.
based on the information that was provided to us. We just had the basic of detail. We did not have the attachments.
So when you got your management letter with these queries, did we engage in getting this clarified? Because if this was just a case where documents were not supplied, during the period of your management letter to the time of your responses for closure to the Auditor General's report, some documents could and should have been provided to remove this from our audit query. What transpired?
Chair, certainly I wasn't in the ministry at that time, so I would assume that is not Mr. Chan, the former PS would have dealt with the matter.
And we didn't see the need to bring the former PS here today to answer?
May I ask if the former PS was invited? That will be the one that served from January 2020 to when did you take over, Ms. Rupchan?
October.
October 2020,
Yes.
You took over from that PS.
Correct.
All right, so let me just say for the members' knowledge and the entire PAC that because we are considering 2019 Auditor General's report, Ms. Rajdai was invited for 2019 and the 2020 period, the other PS will be invited.
Paragraph 600. the Auditor General indicated we had a sum of almost $2 billion in current and capital expenditure, excluding employment costs. And when he did an analysis of the expenditure, he saw that there was very little expenditure between January to November at an average of 7%, and a significant increase of 24% in December. The first question I would like is if the PS could explain to PAC the circumstances that existed that led to the slot and what miraculously happened in December, that 25% of or quarter of your PSIP was executed in 1 month of December 2019.
Chair, most of the expenditure for the capital works has to do with the LETM business incubator and the building, the ministry building, in terms of the capital works. The industrial estate in LETM and the business incubator center, a number of works were outstanding and not completed. So there were need for corrective works and then the appropriate sign up by the consultant before we could approve and work through the payments. Hence the reason why we had the request of payment coming down later in the year rather than early in the year.
So the work was ongoing, but just a day.
Yeah, it wasn't properly done so that we could effect any payment.
If I may add, two other major items under that year was the startup of the NQI and the ESW project. And my understanding, there were some delays in the initial condition acceptance by the bank and a number of other things. So those two major projects that had large numbers too happened in 2019 or started in 2019.
So the sums that were expended on these capital works, which the Auditor General indicated, it was 50%, the total represented 50% of the capital project that was spent in December. Were these contracts that were in force before 2019, or were these contracts that were awarded in 2019?
Sure, these were contracts that were in force and rollover to 2019.
Rollover contracts. It was basically a struggling project that eventually had to be rescued with corrective work and so on.
Definitely, Chair, because of a number of unforeseen circumstances with materials in LETM.
Could we hear you on the mic, please?
I said a number of unforeseen circumstances where there were difficulties taking in materials and then the bad weather affecting the completion of the work at the incubator center.
Did you have a procurement plan for 2019?
Yes, Chair.
And could you submit to PAC a copy of that procurement plan and the adjustments that were made? Because the reason why I'm asking, the Auditor General says better planning needed to be done. And a procurement plan would have indicated to him my plan, how my money would have been executed for the year. But I couldn't get that done because of A, B, and C. And if that was submitted, then this query should not have been in your report. You agree? Who's your procurement person?
We did not have a procurement officer in the ministry, but Ms. Simon, the PSG, serves with procurement.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did indicate that I have to leave at 5, and it's now 4 minutes to 5. He's on TikTok.
No, it wasn't that. It's something way more serious and of national importance, comrade, I assure you. Yes, I remember that you did say that you have to leave, but in your absence, we will still be quorated, so we will proceed. And I think it's on that basis that we have given you way to
That's my
exhaust.
question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you.
So unfortunately, we have. Oh, we will. Dr. Mahadyu is on. So there's a couple paragraphs more, and I'm sure that we will finish before 5:30. So, Mr. Datalin, if you can, Honorable Member Datalin, if you can give us that little time since you came late, it will be good, because part of our national commitment to the people of this country.
You don't have two members here. Speak to the other one who you say is
I
here.
am online.
I asked Mrs. Bagheera.
He's online. He's online.
He's not saying hello.
Give us a half an hour more. Thank you.
He's not saying hello. What the song says.
No fault of his. The paragraphs remain open. I will put the remaining paragraphs to the committee. As in the consideration, I put the remaining paragraphs to the committee.
Minister to.
Go ahead, Honorable Member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, at paragraph 609, it is stated here that the telephone infrastructure at Belvedere and Lethem Industrial Estate were not in place at the time of the audit, resulting in an unspent balance of $98 million. Can we be informed as to what is the status of this these works at the two industrial sites?
Thank you, Honorable Member. Belvedere Incubator Center is being utilized for the purposes it was set out to do. I believe it was, I know it was commissioned and opened last year. It's operational and currently serving clients in the following lines: virgin coconut oil, indigenous flours and powders, tea bag line, dried fruits, and seasoning. The Lethem Incubator Center, 65% of the equipment procured and operational. The remaining equipment to be completed by May of this year. 4 offices are currently rented, and there is also Agro-Craft Market Day planned in April 2023. We also have a new building being constructed to house some additional equipment. It's in the details are in the budget for 23. That is the status of the 2 incubators.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure here in this as to what was the fate of $424 million. This is paragraph 604 and 605. That of 1.1 billion for capital expenditure, there's an unspent balance of $428 million. These monies were returned to the consolidated funds, and what would have accounted for this amount
a substantial amount of the total not being expended according to the budget.
I believe the three major projects or three major areas, well, Ms. Raj had mentioned them. She'd mentioned the industrial, the LETAM incubator, the National Quality Infrastructure Project, which is the IDB funded project, and the single window automated processing system, which is also the IDB project that commenced in 2019. For a few reasons, those projects were slow. It was slow in the start for 2019, and a number of, well, as I highlighted here, much of the monies had to be returned. In terms of the NQI, their highlights for the reasons of underperformance for 2019 include retendering of a consultancy for the development of a trade and investment strategy for Go Invest, the resignation of the support engineer who was critical, and that resulted in delayed design of the access road being completed, the lengthy response time from key stakeholders, and the lack of qualified specialists in the field of quality and standards that is available locally and regionally. Those are highlighted as the reasons for the underperformance and therefore the delay and work, which resulted in the monies at low spending. In terms of the LATAM incubator, highlighted were the issue with the weather, which was a major one that we were advised on, and limited material and downsizing of labor force due to deplorable state of the roadway to LATAM.
Mr. Chairman, I note the response here by the accounting officer for paragraphs 613 to 615 that all has to do with the single window automated processing system. Based on the response from the PS, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure what if this project was successfully implemented. Can we be told about the spending of, I think there is an amount of $85.2 million to achieve this single window automated processing system. Was this project successfully concluded?
Thank you, Honorable Member. The electronic single window, which was signed on February 11, 2019, has an execution period of 5 years. There was some delay initially, and the project is a single window for trade purposes, license, customs, GRE, that type of thing. So businesses don't have to be moving from one all over. They can go to do it one spot, one off. There was some delays because of...
Ms. Rukan, just for my clarity.
Yeah, sure.
When you say businesses don't have to go to all over, it means that they just send it into this one system, and then the system transfers or travels the document to the
Correct.
respective agency.
Yes.
And then everything, the individual of him or herself comes to that one agency.
Final.
To know about approval, disapproval, and these type of things.
And they can go online, the intention to go online to track.
Yeah.
So they fill
So
up.
it doesn't remove the agencies that have to play their critical
No,
role.
everyone is now going to be interlinked.
Yes.
So if it is, let's say, ammunitions or explosives just randomly, and it has to have a commission, an approval or a background check, it has to get a license approval and the varying things. All those agencies will now be interlinked so we can see where it is, where the process is, to the point where it reaches the point for the cost.
Thank you very much.
So where the question Honorable Member asked where we are at this point, although there were those delays, we have completed, where the business process re-engineering is complete, where the development of the modules are complete. The integrated management system hardware and internet connectivity we intend to complete by the end of the year. And the development of the modules, my apologies, should be complete by October or November. Our aim at the rate we're working and hoping to push the consultant is to get go live by the end of the year. We actually just completed a open stakeholder meeting. So businesses who will be affected can understand better and actually air if their concerns, if they're seeing gaps. Also, the relevant stakeholders, ministry and agency stakeholders were involved in that. So we're at that stage. And then there's a part that deals with communication change management. Of course, new systems require the training of people to understand and to embrace it. And that is going to be done simultaneously as this goes into 23-24. At this point, we're hoping we don't have to have an extension from the initial 5 years, although there was a delay. But we're working hard on the process to push it forward. But yeah, that's where we are.
Thank you, PS. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to paragraph 616. The response of the Permanent Secretary to the query raised by the Auditor General is that this project never got off the ground. So the amounts that were budgeted for, these amounts were sent back, and speaking here about the amount of at 616 would have been
Thank you.
An amount of 43 million. Based on the response that it was late in the year, you didn't go to tender. What would have happened to this project and the monies that were budgeted for its execution?
Honorable member, the building that was the building that was proposed for the National Exhibition Center, there was a delay in 2019. I will be corrected and be guided, Ms. Raj, because of the construction of the lab, or the lab also being placed there. So with that new decision, they had to redo their plan of the building that they were intending to do. So that caused the delay in the start of 2019.
So the funds were returned?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would have exhausted my questions for this.
Thank you, Honorable Member Siraj. Is there any other honorable member that wishes to have the floor? There being no other questions, let me take this opportunity to thank the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, who has represented for 2019 the Ministry of Business. And I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to say this, but I believe you and the former PS did an exceptionally good job in responding to the searching questions from the members of the Public Accounts Committee. And I thank you for all the clarifications that you brought to this honorable committee, and wish to request of you to continue to do well in your in your ministry, and continue to follow the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, the Procurement Act, the Stores Regulation, and all other laws that govern the financial management of the taxpayers' money.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. Also, General and your team. To everyone else, FS and AG and their team and the other members. To my members, my team, our team here, and PS Raj, thank you for joining us. I thank you all and have a good rest of Holy Week.
Same to you, PS, and thank you to your staff for coming out, and do have a good rest of the afternoon, and may you enjoy Easter with your family and friends. To all of you, thank you.